later on in the meeting, but part of the focus and part of the discussion that we're probably going to have is that also looking at Crawford Park, the uses, and looking to mitigate the impact that it takes in the park. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are changing.
Yeah.
And change, quite often, change is not always comfortable. People don't automatically adjust to it or the concept. And as long as we're keeping the focus that we're going to do what's best for the taxpayers, okay, that's what's important. Okay, you talk about, and I'll talk about this later, but you talk about the small amount of money that the taxes are ultimately. Maybe small to you. May not be so small to somebody who's losing their home. May just be enough to put somebody over the edge. So we're all in a different situation.
I understand
and I think it's important that part of good government is trying to consistently work with what we have. If we have the opportunity to responsibly lower budgets, then we're going to do it. But thank you.
I just wanted to say about the plans for rethinking the park management. We feel that Friends of Crawford Park had a chance to discuss some of this with Bishop, and we're very pleased that some of the ideas is to have a lower impact, less of a crowding in on the facilities, the parking, and the fields. So I think I appreciate that.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Other comments from the public, please. Just state your name and address for the record.
If I can remember it. Richard Abel, Quintar Drive in Portchester, in Rye Town. I had a question on under contractual expenses. There's Pearl Street improvements, and I know there are problems with this building, and you have 0 as the preliminary budget. It was $15,000, and I mean, would improvements be making it better or fixing the problems? I guess that would be my question.
Well, actually, thank you for that question. It's an excellent question, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the board yet. And one of the other things I'd like to do on that Saturday morning meeting is set our goals for this, our last year in office, together, potentially as a board, for next year, for this coming budget year. And one of the things I'd like the board to consider is a sale-leaseback of this building. Now, again, we're not going to be budgeting for that in this budget. We're going to, budget for status quo because I think it'd be irresponsible to budget otherwise. But one of the things I'd like to talk about at that, being in addition to the, potential for maybe privatizing Wrighttown Park, is a sale-leaseback of this building. I think we're going to hear tonight about a capital plan review for this building, and effectively, there hasn't really been any capital expenditures in the town of Rye for 50 years. If I look at Wrighttown Park, there's certainly in the last 20 years, not that I've seen anyway in any budgets. And of course, the infrastructure has deteriorated dramatically as a result. I mean, in the supervisor's office, the first 2 years we spent there with a bucket capturing the rain until we managed to get the roof fixed. So I think we need a comprehensive plan. My proposal, and we need to look at it and RFP it and test that proposition. But I'd certainly like to explore a sale-leaseback of this building. And I think that there are some interested parties, and I think we could generate some revenue for the town, which I'd like to deploy at Wrighttown Park. And then if we can lease it back at a reasonable rate, I think it might make sense.
Just as a point on that, there's also a thought you get rid of the building and move somewhere else because you don't need as much space as you have, I gather. Because the second floor is rentable, but it's not being rented.
That's a very good point,
Okay.
And so I think that's another consideration. I'd love to move it down to Wrighttown Park once we've finished. Let's say.
I do have a question on
Please.
the organization here.
Yeah.
Contingency, I gather that's general contingency, that's just money for any use.
Rainy day money,
But it's
yes.
considered a special item. And looking at all the other items there, it just seems like contingency should just be on its own separate line, separate
Rich,
category.
where are you? What page?
On the 8. It's sort of stuck into special items, and contingency I didn't think is an item like
Well, to a
that.
degree, contingency can also be used for...
For anything, though. It could be used anywhere in the budget.
Used to enhance this
Yeah,
building.
but it could be used anywhere in the budget. And one other
Hold on,
thing,
actually, that's not a bad suggestion, actually.
Should be its own line item.
yeah.
I agree, David. Can
It's
we?
its own number, but it's not.
I think that's probably a good suggestion.
And under celebrations, I respectfully disagree with, I don't remember who brought it up, I think councilperson Villanova. I think it's important that Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Columbus Day be itemized so that those groups know that they have the money to do those functions. Because if you group them all together and you can then divvy it up, how you feel later, they're not going to know whether they're getting the money or not. In other words, whether Memorial Day has the money or Independence Day or so on and so forth.
Good idea. What I think we should do then, that's going to be a direct, that should be a direct dialogue with the Village of Portchester then, correct?
Or those
Or those
organizations.
committees?
Yeah, those
We should
committees.
try to reach out to the committees.
And have them make a
really see
proposal.
really see what the need is. And now, Rich, on the other hand, I think part of my concern is that one item was $4,500 and the other one was drastically less. What I did is I saw an imbalance, and so I thought that we would be better served having the money so we can fair and equitable,
So the
forever.
suggestion, I mean, I'm not on board, but would be that you should reach out to whoever's in charge of those and say, please send a letter of what you need or what your proposal is and what it's for.
Bishop,
And
can
then
we do
you
that?
decide that.
We handle that?
I think that's how the village does it.
Yeah, we do that now. If you'll remember, during the course of the year, you were asked to approve the actual expenditure, and you were able to modify the amount that you were willing to grant. So, again, what I would want to make sure is known, this is a budget. We put numbers into the budget, but that doesn't mean that if we say X thousands of dollars for 4th of July, that the board has committed to spend that.
That's just
The
an
board has
opportunity.
budgeted that money. The board has a second bite, in effect, to say we can either raise it or lower it, depending on how we feel at that particular moment.
Right, okay.
And yes, we do ask the groups to submit letters of request.
Very good.
Well, I think my point there is not that. It's for the benefit of those organizations that run those, that they know that they have that money. Because if you change it at the last minute, we might not have a July 4th celebration or something, because it's been short before where it almost didn't happen. On the point of employee raises, you do realize, obviously it's really tough economy out there, and government jobs are actually pretty good right now, with the benefits and everything else. I think that a merit raise is a much better way of doing employee raises than a percentage across the board. And I'm also asking, a year ago, last year you gave raises across the board that also seemed to, were raises to contract employees. And I don't think contract employees should get the same type of raise that employees get, if they get a raise at all. And so,
Well, contract employees,
well, they're not employees. They're under contract.
right,
Yeah.
and they, if you look at the 2 years,
Mhm.
they've gotten less than the employees, or most of our contract employees. in
Not
the
all.
case. Well, the one that
Okay.
you specifically mentioned in the newspaper article got less. He was frozen his first year,
Yes.
whereas everybody else got a raise.
But he's not an employee.
Well, I'm sorry, but you said contract employees,
Okay,
so
well-
It's just
you
kind
raised
of
the issue, so I'm
wrong-
going to
wrong
address
term,
the
I'm
It's
issue.
the wrong term, but we
Yes.
understand.
Who are you referring to, employees or independent contractors?
Independent contractors, thank you.
Yeah.
Independent contractors are,
Yeah, independent contractors.
and
There's only one.
Oh, is he the only one? Okay, so there you go. So independent contractors have gotten less raise than the employees of the town.
not according to Bishop, last year he got 4% and the employees got 2%.
No, that's not, no.
You have it just the reverse.
Exactly.
Oh,
He
the employees
got,
got four
he
and-
got, he was
okay.
frozen the first year, and the employees got 2%. Last year, some employees got 2%, some employees got 4%. He got 2%. So the independent contractor's gotten less than the employees of the town of Rye.
Okay, but that independent contractor, it's a job that you could always put an RFP out and get another one. It's not like It's a specialty item. I'd like to point out...
Actually, but as long as you're bringing that up, quite frankly, I have to say, being in government is absolutely fascinating, and having an executive position in government is absolutely fascinating. All of the employees that we're working with, and they're doing a great job and working hard, and they're motivated. We've worked hard to motivate them. But, in the private sector, you could let people go, change them, and here you can't. So I'm really encouraged with the way that our employees have responded, but it is sort of an interesting dynamic, I'll say that.
I mean, I know there have been suggestions in the village of Portchester to try to get out of, to have non-union employees. And I don't think any of your employees are union, or?
I think.
Yeah,
no.
so you're lucky that way. But having a government job is a
well, and
job today.
let me just actually.
And so, as I don't think the CPI today is, the cost of living has changed much. I think it's like at zero or slightly above. It's at zero. And today, having a job is a really good thing. And I don't know how many of you know about people who have lost their jobs and are really struggling, and obviously it shows in people who can't pay their taxes. So I'm not saying that we should burden, you want to reward the employees, and I think that some may deserve some sort of merit, bonus. A bonus, I think, is the best way to do it, as opposed to a raise. If the economy continues to get worse, you can't take back a raise, but you could not give a bonus. And that's something that private industry is doing a lot more of. Okay? And, I'm not trying, we all want good employees and we want to keep our employees, but I don't think you're finding many employees running away from jobs like in the town.
Well, I will say
or in
this.
any government or school or whatever.
I want to take this opportunity to thank the employees of the town of Rye, who I think have done an absolutely fantastic job. They've really responded, I think, to the goals we've set forward for them, and a lot of them, the reason we had 2% and 4% raise, the 4% was people making less than $40,000 a year. So a lot of them had really lagged in terms of increases and that kind of thing. But we certainly take on the. Thank you for your comments. I think we we agree with your view that it merit pays the profit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, let me get. Sorry, I apologize, Councilman Nioras. We'll give you the last word. Let me get other comments from the public. Any other comments from the public? Okay, Councilman Nioras.
Yeah, first of all, I think this is a very good budget. It's showing a decrease for yet the third year in a row, and a substantial decrease, even forecasting a decrease in revenue. So I think it's very good that we were able to do that. I do have some comments on some of the line items here that hopefully Dave can answer for me. And this is in no particular order. I just jotted notes as I was going through this. All right, so first of all, someone mentioned the contingency, and the contingency shows a decrease from the prior year of about $50,000. And I'm wondering if we actually allocated enough to a contingency. Because I know we had some storm damage and other damage that was pretty significant this year. And I'm just wondering if we have another year like that, do we have enough in the contingency budget?
Well, last year's budget was $100,000. We've moved this to $100,000. The salary increases is one issue we need to address, but that would probably be the only thing that we may need the contingency for 2010, which would be storm damage at Crawford. And
right.
We really didn't use any more of it in 2010.
Do we know what we used in 2010 actual out of the contingency?
We haven't allocated anything out of contingency. It would just be what we're over in Crawford Park, or by the end of the year.
That was about 30,000, if I recall.
30, yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay. And there's no other area that we've identified that we would need to pull from. That would be from a line. We didn't have a line item in the budget. We'd have to pull from contingency.
In running projects and stuff, or any type of improvement project, large project, you usually allow 10%, and that's quite large here, and we're well below like 5% at this point in time in terms of contingency. So it looked a little bit low. I don't know if we might want to reconsider it.
The one thing is, one of the things we've been really working hard to do is make sure we don't overspend the budget.
Right.
And so we've had we've been basically spending at a rate of about $3.2, $3.3 million a year. Last year's budget was 3.8, this year about 3.6. So I guess even with the lower contingency, I think there's a bit